Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 54 of the Discussion 5. Let me line this up. I got my videos in the wrong spot. There we go. We are the Brothers of Discussion here to talk Detroit Red Wings hockey. We are talking the 5 most pressing matters usually, and we usually come to you Monday and Thursday morning, but for now, during the lockout or the pause of the season, we're only coming to you on Mondays. I am Matthew Klink. I can be found at KlinkMatt. That is my brother Mike. He is Michael_Klink. And we can be found at BOD Hockey on Twitter. We are also the Brothers of Discussion, and we'd be remiss if we didn't remind you that not only do we talk Detroit Red Wings hockey, we also talk pro wrestling. We both have our Detroit Red Wings WWE t-shirts from WWE Night. That, of course, started everybody's favorite chant at Red Wings games, which is the woo chant. I think I just did it more like Zach Ryder, but but we hope that you'll check us out.
Like Patrick Star kind of bummed out on SpongeBob.
We hope that you'll check us out at bodpodcast.com, brothersofdiscussion.com. We are at BOD Podcast on Twitter, and we have a joint Instagram account of brothers_of_discussion that covers both pro wrestling and Red Wings hockey. And of course, we did make that pivot to Red Wings hockey because we are a part of the Hockey Podcast Network. It's thehockeypodcastnetwork.com. It's every team, everywhere. On top of covering every team, the Hockey Podcast Network also boasts fantastic shows like Tales with TR, which comes to you every Tuesday, I think. We have the Ice Analytics podcast every Friday, and the brand new House of Hockey podcast every Tuesday, hosted by Breezy and Ray. Highly recommend all those shows. I've had a great time listening to them. Hopefully, we'll be guesting on those soon. If you want to keep up to date, though, go to @HockeyPodNet on Twitter to check out everything Hockey Podcast Network. All right, Mike, let's jump in. We don't have a ton of stuff to talk about, so what I wanted to do is just at least pat Dylan Larkin on the back and his dad Kevin for donating 50,000 gloves to the DMC and St. Joseph Mercy Medical Group. Kind of a fun story that Dylan Larkin's dad runs a company. They have 50,000 gloves that they figure could go to a better place. So
just laying around. I mean, why don't we donate them? Yeah, let's get in the newspaper.
We're gonna put them in the garbage. No, and this is almost the tale of how little there is to talk about. But moving on, Mike, you had the wonderful idea of making sure Pavel Datsyuk doesn't get drafted by the Detroit Red Wings. So we're gonna take a look at, I guess, a deep dive into the 1998 draft because it could be considered a redraft, but right, we're just gonna take a deeper dive and look at it, right? Because ultimately, you can go to hockeyreference.com, sort the draft by points, and go, all right, we'll take that guy number 1, guy number 2. So yeah, let's paint this picture of like Pavel Datsyuk going 171st, and what. Yeah, like
I thought it would be. I thought it would be kind of fun. If only because this wasn't a one-player draft. There were some a couple guys probably be in the Hall of Fame. There was a lot of talent. I think this draft helped build quite a few Stanley Cup winning teams. So not just Cup contenders, but actual winning teams. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to kind of see. How this 1 year helped build like the next 6-7 years of excellence. It was all in 1998. But man, there's a lot of crazy things in this draft. Not just that Datsyuk goes 171, and with the Red Wings this year, we're hoping they draft first. And Lafreniere can actually be an asset for them. there's a couple other guys who were at the top of the draft. It would be a complete nightmare if we didn't get him. But at least with 98, I think it was such a great example of what a crapshoot the draft can be. We had a couple guys in the first round. I believe Edmonton took them, and they played exactly 0 NHL games, drafted 14th. And when you think about Datsyuk, of course, at 171, playing, damn near close to 1,000 games and, basically a point a game guy. It's really tough to evaluate talent, especially if you're the Oilers.
Yeah, they've proved that for the long run, the long haul.
Yeah, right. Not so much, but I don't know how we want to kind of start this, Matt, because there are some really crazy things here in 1998. Because I know, something Yzerman preaches now for what the Red Wings want to do is get not just young players, but a lot of them. But when you look at this draft, there's some really, really strange anomalies. And by that, I mean teams who not only did they not draft Pavel Datsyuk, but they drafted 29-year-old players ahead of Datsyuk. Like the New York Islanders would select Yuri Dupita, who actually did play a few NHL games. He's in there for 73. Not bad. Nothing to turn your nose at. But why, Matt? What could the rationale possibly be for drafting a 29-year-old player before Pavel Datsyuk? How would you ever justify that as a GM?
Well, let's see. Yeah, he's also from the Czech, so it's not like he's coming from Canada. But yeah, I guess at the time they just saw something from Yuri that at 29, let's bring him in. I don't know how that happens back then. I don't know how. I mean, I guess we're getting more guys that are available to be drafted at that time. So we see a lot of these older guys and Czech, Russian, Swedish, Czech, Swedish, Czech. So like what happened was the floodgates were open and there were all these guys that had all this major talent at the time. And it wasn't always that you could just draft from across the globe, which is another point to why Pavel Datsyuk went so late in the draft, because you didn't have everybody that was scouting in those areas. And we'll talk about Pavel goes 171st, so it's not like the Red Wings came in and drafted him in the first round. I know a lot of that plays to that, it's the gamification of the NHL draft, because you want to draft. So let's say they see something in Yuri Fisher, and if they draft Pavel Datsyuk first when the rest of the NHL isn't even taking a look at Pavel Datsyuk, it's a bad decision. So if nobody else is going to be drafting this guy, then you can wait. I don't think they knew that Pavel Datsyuk was going to turn into Pavel Datsyuk, but I think there's a huge element of the gamification of why draft a guy in the first round that nobody else is going to be drafting in the first round, when you can try and hedge your bet, get a couple of guys that are probably going to go a lot earlier because they have some, they're Canadian, so you can draft those guys willy-nilly. U.S., North American, I guess is what I should say. And it's just the point of other teams looking at them. So this is, man, got the older guys because we started to expand draft eligibility. But then,
it looks like they were trying to draft almost like a finished product. This guy's 30. He's ready to play right now. We don't have to roll the dice and see if he's, going to be able to get there. Like, he's already almost 30. I'm talking about Dupita.
Right.
It's just, the way you bring up that point, it's almost like, were the Red Wings the smartest guys in the room, or were they taking a flyer on a guy in the 5th round? You know what I mean? Like, at that point, if we're not drafting Pavel all the way to the 5th round, then let's use that draft pick on a Canadian, and then we'll do, like a rookie free agent, after the draft. We'll bring Pavel in for a tryout, see how he does, against like some pylons and cones on the ice, see if he can skate. Who knows? But, God luck, the gods, the hockey gods smiled on the Red Wings, because this wasn't a home run draft for Detroit, man. I mean, you got, I guess it was one home run. Let me rephrase that. Because you had a, first ballot Hall of Famer. But it was super duper top heavy. The Wings had 11 picks in this draft. And they really only hit on 2, with Pavel and then Yuri Fisher, who, had to hang him up earlier than everyone would have liked, because of health.
Right.
But there's a couple teams that really, smacked some, I don't know why I keep using baseball analogies. They scored some hat tricks. How about that?
So they only got 3 guys, is what Mike's saying.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
After that, we just release you. We just want hat tricks. Nobody cares about 4-goal games. I'm talking about teams like the Canadiens. They, I think of their 11 picks, they had 7 guys play at least 50 games, and then a couple guys play, hundreds of games. Looking at the.
Yeah, and you've got to put the asterisk that not all these guys finish their career with the Canadiens, but they.
No, but I'm just saying that your ability to scout and actually pick out good players, I wouldn't mind having, the talent development or scouting departments from like Montreal.
Right, and I thought it was interesting when you took the note down for the Canadiens to like go ahead and just think about it. Do they have a Stanley Cup out of this? They do not. So they what the problem was is if you're a Canadiens fan, you're probably well aware of this, but how they distribute talent before prime or if they're in their prime, so they're not timing out properly when they got to keep these guys, because you could take a look at Francois Beauchemin, and while he wasn't in like the top 10, he actually had a season where he had Hart Trophy votes, which is incredible for a defenseman. And I just, it's something that he goes on and he has a ton of success with Anaheim. So it's one of those things that I think there's a ton to take away from not only having a season like that. Let me actually pull this up before I put my foot in my mouth here. But or to have a draft like that, but then you could also start trying to figure out, okay, so they do know how to draft. They do know how to bring guys onto this team to start. But he only played 1 game with Montreal, Francois Beauchemin, his entire career. And then if I could actually put the number on it, he finished 4th in Norris Trophy voting and 23rd in Hart Trophy voting in 2012 and 2013, and that's nothing to sneeze at when you're a defenseman who's getting Hart Trophy votes, because the way that we know the Hart Trophy works, it's pretty much just let's take a chunk of the top 5 guys in points who are all forwards, and we'll see who did we like the best. But yeah, I don't want to jump on your point too much, but I think to look at Montreal, it's almost sad with how many guys they nailed it with that actually became like career NHLers and weren't just one throwaway season. But Mike, you have a list of quite a few teams that I think I think as the list goes on, it comes back to your point of some Stanley Cups actually coming out of this draft.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the big ones too was Tampa Bay, and I know that was a team I followed a lot because they were winning when my beloved Pistons were winning their championship in 2004. But I mean, this '98 draft was so fruitful for them. Vincent Lecavalier, you might have heard of him. Brad Richards, of course. A fan of Sanktoff, played a pretty big role too. So I mean, that's another one where it's just. I mean, like pillars of that team. They all did really well there. Lengthy careers, scored a lot of points. Award-winning guys, and most importantly, Lord Stanley's Cup there. So. And
that's first overall pick, Vincent Lecavalier, right? And then you were bringing it up before the show even started. I mean, this is a guy that goes on to get close to winning some Rockets a few times, and then winning the Rocket Richard twice, right?
I think he just said it the one time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's huge. And the Tampa Bay Lightning pick up Martin St. Louis too, pretty close to that time. So they've just got this run of Richards, LeCavalier, and Martin St. Louis for a good chunk of time, of course, before those guys start splitting up into different teams. But yeah, this is for Tampa Bay. This was huge, and this goes to that point of like hitting that reset button, and maybe not necessarily for them thinking like we're hitting a reset button. They just flat out sucked the year before. But I think the argument for like keeping the draft pretty much the way it works is that those teams that suck the most have the best chance at getting that first pick. It can make a huge difference, obviously.
Makes a huge difference. Lafreniere, come on.
Yeah.
Come aboard, buddy. We can't wait to have you.
I'm sure. Well, he doesn't have a say. He just has to follow along.
It's not unprecedented. We saw Eli Manning. He said, nope, I want to play in New York, and I will just not play. And, it worked out for him. We saw Steve Francis do that in the NBA. There's all sorts of guys who just, let's set it up. Lafreniere, come aboard, man. Just refuse. Just say, nope, I'm going to go play abroad. I only want to be a Red Wing. And then what are they going to do? Waste the first pick? Waste the second pick? No. You heard it here first. You can do whatever you want.
All right, guys. So Mike's getting rid of Pavel Datsyuk today.
Woo!
And now he's letting us know that even if we want Alexis Lafreniere, he's not guaranteed to come. So just all sunshine and lollipops for Mike today.
News. Yes, absolutely. I did want to throw in one more team that, again, did really well in 1998. And they drafted Martin Skula and Alex Tanguay. That'd be the Colorado Avalanche, who got a cup out of this fruitful draft here. And a couple guys, again, who just had monster careers, hundreds of games played, tons of points, and they contributed, to winning hockey. So, Colorado, Tampa, and obviously, they only hit once, but I mean, to get one of the greatest players ever, you have to put Detroit on that list, and they got a Stanley Cup. One more team, Matt. Because I got Gianta and Scott Gomez out of it, were the Devils, who were really dominant for a couple years here. So I didn't want to exclude them.
Well, yeah, they definitely have to, because you got to figure you're trying to count how many Stanley Cups come out of this draft from guys that are actually making that difference. And then Scott Gomez wins the Calder, which is Rookie of the Year, helps the Devils get the 2000 Cup and then the 2003 Cup. So, I mean, obviously, Brodeur probably had a lot to say about that. But it was pretty important for the Devils to nail those drafts, because they were always that trap team, and this was an opportunity. A Scott Gomez comes on and a Gianta, and this team starts to get a little bit more offense, some more firepower. So now they were already strong. I mean, they win the Cup in 1995. They're always at the top of the standings, and they're getting the last pick in the draft because they're always doing great at this time, thanks to Martin Brodeur. But it was important for them to nail those forward draft picks, whatever was going on, to keep this team surviving through the rest of the season. When you're doing that great, you're always cutting it pretty close to the teeth when it comes to the draft. Like, it's all right. You've got to nail it. You're not always expecting a Scott Gomez to actually roll on through. So when you're cutting it so close, sometimes you got to get lucky. But Mike, there's a way to cut it close and not get lucky, and that's, of course, by our sponsor, Manscaped, and the Manscaped Lawnmower 3.0. You don't have to get lucky, Mike, because this thing is scientifically designed to keep you nice and clean, cut short, comfortable. I think you and I have both had a good time getting our ducks in a row, getting nice and comfortable in our undies, and I couldn't I couldn't have been more happy to feel the fresh air. You had to, Mike. You had to do it. You had to use the lawnmower and then open up the window in the bathroom and let the air breeze on through. I'm not sure how easy it is in your bathroom, but I'm pretty lucky. I've got a pretty low hanging, not ball sack.
Okay.
I've got a low hanging window.
Because even if you do have low hanging balls, this device is incredible. You'll get right under there. You'll feel safe. You'll feel clean. It's a pleasure to use the device. I love the lotion that they include too. A little ball
nice
perfume.
box.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Undies
it's really
are my
good,
favorite
especially,
undies
now. I mean, I've been wearing sweatpants basically since we've been quarantined. And sweatpants are really, they get their name because they generate a lot of sweat in the ball area. That's a Wikipedia article I read that I'm putting together. That's where balls, that's where they get their scent from. But Luckily, even though I'm wearing all these sweatpants, Matt, basically the only time I do laundry, and my laundry is all sweatpants, and they all smell like balls. But now that I'm using this ball perfume, I actually, like, my girlfriend comes home.
You mean deodorant?
No, there's two. Well, I mean, they call it deodorant, but it's kind of a ball perfume because it smells really good, man. My cat has never cuddled me more. He's a big fan of it. And my girlfriend's a girl, so it's really hitting both parties here. I got male and female, both really enjoy what's going on down there.
Well, getting back to our trimmer, that thing makes us so comfortable.
It's such a great product to put all those things together. I really enjoy it.
Well, yeah, Manscaped knew it was important to redesign the electric trimmer. Manscaped engineering team spent 18 months perfecting the greatest ball hair trimmer ever created, and that's what we want to make sure you guys are taking away from this message today. Mike, when I tell you, or when I told you, or when I tell all of the audience here that this thing, I mean, we've had products before sent to us, and I don't care for them. I don't use them. I'm actually excited to cut my balls now. And you can make sure that your balls are always getting the care and love they need because of the battery that lasts up to 90 minutes. And of course, now they have the cool charging USB cable that makes everything nice and convenient for you. So who doesn't have a million different ways to charge with a USB in their house? They've got the 7,000 RPM motor, and Mike, for you to get involved, I'm really stumbling here because we never even mentioned to the crowd or the audience that I only have one eyeball. We mentioned it on our wrestling podcast. Didn't mention it here.
I think the
but you can
problem
get
is
20%
you still don't
off.
have an eye patch.
You can get 20% off and free shipping when you use the promo code THPN at manscaped.com. I apologize for really breaking the fourth wall here, but I gotta lean in and squint here. 20% off and free shipping using that promo code again, THPN at manscaped.com. Yeah, we love it. Check it out.
You look like the Islanders. Let's see. Should we get Pavel Datsyuk at age 20 or Yuri Depita? Wow, he's already got 29 something. I'm picking Yuri Depita. Woo! All right, go ahead.
I think too. There's a story about the Detroit Red Wings like lucking out and getting a chance to see Datsyuk when they weren't even supposed to see him. So this wasn't a guy that was really on anybody's radar. And it wasn't like you get to cheat now where somebody has like a great season overseas and then they have a YouTube channel and it's devoted to them. So then scouts can even just check people out then. I mean, there's so much that has changed. The way scouting works now, the guys that were eligible back then and who are eligible now, and just like kind of how you had your home base set up in different countries, or like planning when you were going to see guys because you couldn't see everybody, and then the idea that Datsyuk goes at 171 is why so many teams expanded what they were doing overseas. But where were we, Mike? We talked old timers, Hall of Famers in this draft. I thought
it's a big word. It's a big phrase. Maybe a little too generous. But Matt, looking at these stats, looking at these guys who played, 18 years, 19 years, 20 years. How many Hall of Famers would you say came out in 1998? I think we still got guys with maybe another year or two of eligibility here, and we definitely have time for some guys to get re-examined while we're still in quarantine.
It's the Hockey Hall of Fame too. So what I was doing in my head was saying, why isn't Pavel Datsyuk eligible? Well, it's because he's still playing hockey over in Russia, so he's still got to retire and wait 3 years before he's eligible. Which
we keep asking him, and he keeps playing.
Damn him.
Damn it.
I'm always curious, like, if it is enough to be, have your Calder win the Calder Trophy kind of thing. Is that enough to become a Hall of Famer? Do you need that long-lasting career? Which again, you've got to be a part of. In my head, you get a lot closer when you're a part of Stanley Cup teams. Pavel Datsyuk for me is a shoo-in. Advanced analytics was almost created to make the argument that Pavel Datsyuk is one of the greatest hockey players of all time. And that didn't happen by accident. He had his Hart Trophy votes. He had his Selke votes. He had his Lady Byng trophies. He had his Stanley Cups.
No hockey city is more well-versed in what a Lady Byng trophy is than the city of Detroit.
Right.
We got Eisenman. We got Datsyuk. It's the biggest trophy you can get. Woo! And it's all about being a gentleman on the ice, and still that subjective, and still being a pretty good player too. So you gotta be a gentleman, and then you gotta be pretty good. Like there isn't like a point plateau.
Right.
It's just if you're gentlemanly enough and you're not dog shit on the ice, you're eligible for. I love the definition of that trophy, but Datsyuk definitely earned it because he was a gentleman. What did he have, like 10 penalty minutes for his whole career?
Yeah. It's a silly award, but if they're gonna give it out, then one of the guys that's won it most often has got it's got to count for something in that Hall of Fame conversation.
Yeah.
Then for Tampa, you got to figure LeCavalier, and I know Brad Richards didn't finish out his career there, but since we're talking about him being drafted by Tampa. Those two guys had long careers. They collected a lot of points. They won Stanley Cups. LeCavalier, again, is a shoo-in. David Legwand you have on the list here. That one's tough for me because you don't have the same accolades. You just have a long career. Brad Stewart is a no for me. Alex Tungay, I would say, should be in there if he's not already. I'm not a Hall of Fame trivia expert, so I could be saying names right now that are already in there. Scott Gomez, I would say you've got a couple of Stanley Cups in there. I think the Hall of Fame does the East Coast there, so whatever's going on that keeps away from the West Coast or keeps away from any of the Southern teams, they're always happy to award that. So yeah, I'd say Scott Gomez is in there, or at least in the conversation too, because I was taking a look at I was trying to figure out if any of these guys were eligible right now, and some of them are getting their eligibility year last year or this year, but there are still guys that wait forever past their eligibility and then finally make it in. I just don't the NHL has never really been that league that tries to usher in 50 guys in a year. It's not like the WWE Hall of Fame where they're trying to fill out a night of entertainment by having a WWE Hall of Fame show. The NHL Hall of Fame could walk away with 3 guys getting in, and they'll be fine with that. I would say I don't keep an eye on the NBA Hall of Fame.
Oh my God, they'll let anybody in
at all. Yeah, so I would say it's probably Major League Baseball, then the NHL for stingiest Hall of Fames. It's Major League Baseball, NHL, NFL, and then based on what you just said, we'll put NBA in there at number 4.
Yeah, if you hit a 26-foot three-pointer in the second quarter of game 35, you're in.
Well, it's either that or if you're talking about whose jersey gets retired for the Detroit Pistons, then it's
I'm waiting for Duncan Darvin Ham to get up there because he's technically on championship team. Maybe not Darko's like playing jersey, but maybe like number 2 because he's drafted number 2. And then we had 2 finals appearances, so kind of. I know we'd have to like take down Chuck Daly's, but it would be well deserved for Darko. So, Matt, I don't know if you're ready, but what we're going to try to do, it's a long draft. I thought we'd try and do the top 10 and then kind of see what's left. If these teams knew how to scout, what's left for the Red Wings there, picking at, I think, 25.
Yeah, and I'll throw in there too. I'm not going to be picking up any goaltenders. The best goaltender that was drafted.
You don't want Raycroft?
Right.
He's a beast.
Best goaltender that was drafted is Raycroft, and he ends up with a 900 save percentage. A career backup goaltender. So I'm not going into the draft looking for a career backup goaltender. I haven't done a deep dive on
Raycroft. I don't know if he's like the Bernier of his time, doing about 90%. He's batting about 500 now, and his win-loss with the losses starting to creep up over the wins. But a guy, because of Bernier, I'm going to throw Raycroft some love. So I'm glad you name dropped him for this episode, Matt, I would be remiss if we did this draft and I didn't give you the first pick. It was my idea to try and do this. And I know how much you value him. I know that you almost didn't want to do this whole thing because you knew it would mean the Red Wings didn't get Datsyuk. So what I'm going to do is at least give you a personal victory. Matt, with the first pick in the 1998 NHL Draft, who does Tampa Bay pick?
Well, look. We're talking a guy. All right, so let's just look at this. So you've got LeCavalier, Brad Richards, Pavel Datsyuk. Those are the top 3 guys. We'll throw in Alex Tungate. Top 4 guys, right, in points. Pavel has 918 points in 953 games. Richards has more points at 932, but he played 1,126 games. And then LeCavalier is on top of both of them at 949, but he played 1,200 games. That's a lot. That's a lot of games. A lot more than Pavel Datsyuk. The point share, too, is a fantastic statistic that'll help measure, like, how many points did this player contribute to whatever team they were on and their victories and getting, moving up in the standings. It's like WAR for baseball. It's just dumbed down. It's not as it's not universally accepted as like a top way to measure a hockey player because there's not too much science involved in it like there is with WAR. But if you sort this draft just by that statistic, Pavel Datsyuk is at 111.2. Second place guy, Andrei Markov, is at 104. And a lot of that has to do with that team's success as well. So you can actually have a lower point share because the team you played for sucked. But it also has to do with your own abilities on the ice as well. So all of that put together, Pavel Datsyuk has the most points per game. He has the highest point share. We talked about the awards. I just don't know how you go any other direction but Pavel Datsyuk. One of the best two-way forwards of all time. One of the best hockey players of all time. And, he should – if, hindsight being 2020, he should have been the number 1 pick in the 1998 draft.
I think the only other question for you, Matt, is obviously Tampa did pretty well. They drafted 2 – Hockey Hall of Fame players. Do you think that their ceiling would have been the same or higher with Pavel?
So, wait, is Tampa?
So Tampa, they get the first pick and they pick Pavel Datsyuk. Everybody falls out of their chairs. Who the fuck is Pavel Datsyuk? And he comes in and he's Pavel Datsyuk. Do you think that their ceiling is the same? Like they, basically leave this era with a cup? Or do they get a couple more cups with Pavel?
Well, you're also talking about a guy that's going to stick with one team for his whole career. I mean, that also kind of depends on being traded and whatnot. But
yeah,
I mean, when you look at like the 2004 Cup, we're not looking at LeCavalier and Brad Richards leading the Lightning in points. It's Martin St. Louis, who they picked up as an undrafted free agent. And also, Pavel didn't even play until 2002, which is also kind of tough because, I mean, there's so many variables here. So you get to see Pavel play with Martin St. Louis, but is he playing sooner in his career? Because, you know, the Red Wings had so many guys already on the roster. There wasn't room for Pavel, so you could really wait for him to marinate before you bring him up. I mean, the easy thing for me to say without being educated enough in Tampa Bay's background and not knowing what actually would happen, the easy thing to say is just, sure, you have more success because you have one of the greatest hockey players of all time in your roster. So there has to be more success there. I just don't know, you know, going forward, what changes. Does he play a season sooner so then other drafts change for Tampa Bay? Do they see Pavel, bring him in, and he's playing that next season, and then they're not doing an undrafted free agent signing of Martin St. Louis, so then they go forward into the future and only have Pavel Datsyuk going forward? Because if we're playing this game, that means Tampa Bay is not getting LeCavalier, they're not getting Brad Richards because they're being drafted much sooner as well. Yeah, it's tricky to say. If anybody's played these redrafting games and they can give a sure answer on anything with the years of variables that get absolutely trashed with these choices, then they're garbage people. But yeah, I would just say the easy answer is just to go, well, now you have a better player on your team, so sure, your team will perform better. But you know, a million things just changed with that one switcheroo.
Solid. I'm gonna take the. I don't know what you want. There's nothing to disagree with. With the second pick, Matt, you got to go LeCavalier. You know, it's some of the stuff we've already harped on. He is a winner. You know, he's got the cup in his pocket. He's also got. I know it's not. Matt, as a fan of Pavel, you know, you're gonna favor guys who, you know, are playmakers, you know, getting assists, guys who play defense, you know, maybe guys who are gentlemanly. That's why, you know, Pavel's more of a priority. But I think we look at him as the ultimate team player. But when I was playing the video game, you know, when I'm watching the highlights on, you know, NHL.com, or, you know, back when ESPN used to have hockey highlights. Remember those days? LeCavalier was a goal scorer. You know, he's a guy who won the Rocket, Richard. God, what was that? 06? You know, pumping in 52. And it's just funny that he and Pavel both kind of had like a similar stretch at kind of similar years where, you know, they had their best numbers kind of like that 06, 7, 8, 9, right around there. They, you know, had that little chunk where they're in their primes. And LeCavalier, obviously, he wasn't as you know, strong a defender. I don't know if anybody was as strong a defender as a forward as Pavel at that time. You know, it's why Pavel was able to, you know, take that Selke home. But, you know, LeCavalier was still, you know, he's in the conversation a little bit. He got votes for that. He wasn't as good as Pavel. He was a little bit better goal scorer. But he's deserving of the number 2. I don't think if you look at their entire careers, he's deserving of being, you know, above Pavel.
So this is where I think it gets more interesting. So LeCavalier gets taken off of Tampa Bay and you put in Pavel Datsyuk, right? Nashville gets to remove David Legwand, who, you know, when you probably talk to a Nashville...
He did fine.
Right, I was going to say, when you talk to a Nashville fan, they probably would say, "No, I want David Legwand forever." But now they get Vincent Lecavalier, and now he becomes the darling of the Nashville Predators. Does he ever leave Nashville? Do they give him everything? How much sooner does he get inserted into the lineup and become the superstar of the Predators? And for all those years that Red Wings would run into the Predators in the playoffs, what's the difference there? Are they able to bring in better free agents? Oh, excuse me. Is it years of you've got Barry Trotz there for a while. So are we bringing in Stanley Cups now that there's like a Hall of Fame forward? Because David Legwand, maybe I'm wrong. I don't see a Hall of Famer there, but Lecavalier, yes. So now you've got a team that immediately is making their pivot into their first year from being just defensive, and you've got a lot of stay-at-home forwards, to one now that can take more chances. We'll probably have a stronger power play, and they'll be able to make this is the problem, right? Does Legwand have a better career in Tampa Bay? I don't know. Right?
I think
if he's playing with Martin St. Louis, he's playing with the coaching style of Tampa Bay. Is David Legwand's whole career in projection, does that go in a completely different direction? And then we're saying, oh my God, you have that defensive forward like David Legwand, and then for his whole career, it's just him and Pavel Datsyuk head to head as who's going to be the better defensive forward who also scores a ton, because I've got Martin St. Louis next to me. It's also fun to play this too, because they're both centers, so they were both looking for that, some guy that wasn't. We're not looking for a winger. We're not looking for a guy that's. We're looking for someone that's going to be the first forward back. We're looking for somebody that can win faceoffs. It's just there's more to ask from a center than a left wing or right wing or a defenseman. But yeah, there's so many variables. But I still think, all right, so let's say the points stay the same. We have a guy that's going to be more successful offensively in Lecavalier over David Legwand. And like you mentioned, Lecavalier was still getting those Selke votes, so it's not like he wasn't a defensive forward. It's just You get Selke votes because you get noticed, and it's more about having guys that have names that are winning awards than anything else. But so he wasn't trash, basically. But yeah, I think that projection is fun to say. Does Nashville go in a completely different direction? But, here we are.
Yeah, well, I think you gotta take the third pick now in this helter skelter first round, where teams are radically changing their futures here when you upgrade from Lecavalier to Pavel, but then, from Legwand to Lecavalier. So, Matt, you got the Sharks.
Oh, yeah, so you've got to take a look here at – so there's 3 defensemen going in a row here. So it wasn't like when it came to scouting or projecting that it was, all right, there's a ton of forwards we have to pick up. So you got to kind of look at the Sharks in that they were thinking defense – moving forward. And then if you round out the top 10, there really wasn't another Lecavalier going in this top 10. So with that, I did actually have my pick, and now I forgot who I picked. We're going to take Montreal Canadiens pick away from number 162. Another late Russian that was drafted, and Andrei Markov will be the new defenseman for the San Jose Sharks. We kind of keep it in the same realm, but now we have a defenseman that's going to make a bigger difference offensively as the career rolls on. And then, hey, if everything rolls out the same way, then eventually the Detroit Red Wings are going to pick up Andrei Markov in a trade with the San Jose Sharks in the 2008 trade deadline.
I love it. Markov was another one of my boys. I always picked up as either traded for him or picked him up as a free agent in the video game. Just solid dude. Unfortunately, he played for Montreal, so he didn't win any cups in real life, Matt. But yeah, I think I like your mentality there, and it's just kind of interesting. Like you said, 3 defensemen in a row, 3, 4, 5. And then thinking about our boy Yzerman, taking Mo Seider at the top. So I wonder if this is going to be this draft's Brad Stewart. Ooh.
Wait, Mort Seider is Brad Stewart?
Okay. Going defenseman in the first 6 picks, Matt. I don't know. It's there's other guys. There's forwards. Maybe the Red Wings, are they going to regret? I don't know. How many defensemen would you? I mean, you went to Markov, who was, again, that means if we're going, what was it, 100 and what was he?
61.
161.
62.
Whew, a lot of people passed on that guy. So it's just, again, kind of that crapshoot mentality. But I'm going 4 here now with Vancouver. It's just, do you just go Brad Richards because he got to play the same junior team as LeCavalier, and then he got to win some cups with Tampa. No, Matt, I'm going Tanguay. I think he was hell, as a left winger there, playing against our beloved Red Wings. We were still in the stages where we were feuding with them. And the guy was a nightmare. He was all over the ice. Again, another point scorer, Stanley Cup winner. I don't know. I'm tired of doing all these centers. We're not just doing centers at the top of this draft. There's not a lot of wings up there who had the lengthier careers. It's basically Alex, and then you got to dive a little bit. You got like the Gagnes and the Giantas of the world. Matt, I'm taking the best wing on the board. Give me Tanguay. All
right, I'll take Brad Richards.
Damn it! I wanted to take him with my next pick. Son of a... So yeah, you're. I didn't know if you're going to try and do the next defenseman on the board, because I know Anaheim was interested in getting one of those.
Nah, I like the idea now that it just, for me, in San Jose doing it with a bunch of defensemen going, I guess you could make the argument that the Ducks were like, oh shit, this is all that's left. But no, I'm going to take Brad Richards. This is the rhyme or reason here without me knowing like the mindset of the Ducks, and this is all just conjecture. I'm just going to go with the guy who ended up with the second most points in his career in this draft.
I mean, he did okay for himself, man. He did okay for himself. I have Calgary now, Matt, and they, of the top 10 players, they picked the worst one of this draft.
Yeah. Rico
Fata. Yeah, I gotta try and help him out. Rico, he did play 230 NHL games, man. So he played roughly 230 more than the two of us combined. Matt, I'm gonna steal one of the picks. Again, we're pillaging from Montreal, who knows how to draft. Give me Mike Ribeiro. He's a center. Dude played 19 years in the league. He was a monster. One of the top 5 point getters, just on the outside of being, at that upper echelon with, the Pavels and the Cavaliers. Just a really good player. Maybe he'll get a minor league stadium a la, Mike Modano, in the in the Montreal area, something like that. But
yeah,
at the very least, he's going to get it in the Calgary area, because he did a lot better than Rico Fata and his career plus minus -60. So, Calgary you really screwed the pooch on that one. Matt, that brings us to the New York Rangers.
Yep, I've got number 7 with the Rangers. Fuck the Rangers. They're going to take Yuri Dapita.
No, that was my pick at number 9. Damn it. All right, I'm sick of that one.
All right, so yeah, now Manny Malholtra's on the board. A great centerman, faceoff winner for his career. But yeah, fuck the Rangers. They're taking that 29-year-old Geary. Go ahead, Mike. You got number 8 with the fucking Blackhawks.
Fucking Blackhawks. I gotta say, like it's down to for me Legwand or am I gonna do Scott Gomez? And I gotta think the way the Blackhawks, they. Again, another rival for the Red Wings here. A team that really made us grind our molars. It's like, God, I hate everybody on their team. Every fucking player, I hate their goalies. And their goalies don't even bump into our guys. But, Matt, I got to put Gomez in there. Because I don't hate David Legwand. I think they're kind of similar players, Gomez and Legwand, but I think Gomez just makes you grind your molars a little bit more. So I think he would have been more at home in Chicago as a Blackhawk. So
I mean, we hated the Devils, so makes sense. We hated Scott Gomez.
It would be a pretty easy transition, that hatred. Like, I don't want to give poor Legwand, it's like putting Captain America on, the Blackhawks. I'm not going to do that to him. So Matt, give me Gomi. Gomi goes to the Hawks.
All right, so that means the Islanders are taking Legwand.
Ooh.
And you've got the Leafs. I
get Toronto. Now, they didn't totally bomb this draft. Nick, was it Antropov? He had a solid career.
Yep.
He didn't play for a super long time, though. It's 2013, so about 15 years. Yeah, he did all right for himself. I'm going to help them out. They get screwed left and right, Matt.
Do they?
I mean, they don't win. They do get their share of draft lottery victories, which I hope the Red Wings can get some of that luck this year again. Matt, we close out the top 10 here. We're going to break up the Devils. They already lost Gomi. Matt, they also lose Gianta. He's gone, so the Devils are fucked. They don't get their cups. Red Wings maybe get a few extra cups here, but that's all dependent here as we
Yeah, that's a good point, because we're still at the top of the league, so somebody's got to win. Somebody's got to win those cups in 2000 and 2003 if we take both of those guys off the team.
The Devils they're out.
And the Avalanche are weaker because they don't have Tugay anymore.
So, Matt, that means what we promised. There's a lot of guys drafted. We're not going to do the entire 280 whatever it was. So, Matt, we did the top 10. We radically changed the trajectories of a couple teams here, like Nashville, Tampa Bay now with a sure ballot Hall of Famer instead of a really, really pretty good player. So, Matt, at 25, who do you think would make it all the way down to our beloved Red Wings? Because originally they took Yuri Fisher, who, again, we all liked the guy, and just health would not cooperate. His body would not cooperate with him. So he didn't get to play as long as he wanted. At 25, first round, who do the Red Wings get?
Well, how does this work? Do teams get this list? Because then I just have to go down.
Just go to the 25th player.
No, I'll say since the Oilers took Sean Horkoff at 99, he's a Michigan State boy. I'll say the Red Wings go ahead and pick up Sean Horkoff to get a center since they were. I don't know. Maybe I should have taken a defenseman there, but yeah, I'll take Sean Horkoff. Why not?
That's what I was going to do. I was going to go to a couple guys who ended up being Red Wings. It was either going to be Samuelson for me or Brad Stewart.
Oh, yeah, Brad Stewart actually would have been a fun one to throw in there since that would have been their replacement for a defenseman that was drafted by the Wingies. All right, Mike, we did it. This is like one of our longest episodes ever, and I hope everybody enjoyed seeing Pavel Datsyuk go to the Tampa Bay Lightning. So,
yeah.
But honestly, I know what you meant, Mike, is we're kind of just highlighting how different the draft was at that point. How different scouting was, and I don't know. It's it would be an interesting thing for us to see how many guys going from 5th, 6th, 7th round, around this time, or like go back 10 years, how many guys are actually getting near a point per game in those 5th, 6th, and 7th rounds that Pavel Datsyuk got up to. Just being that we all have the internet now and you can pretty much get an opportunity to see every player, it's going to be pretty tough to have a Pavel Datsyuk sneak down that far. So I guess don't be as mad at the Red Wings when the draft doesn't work out as well as it used to. Sure. That's the lesson learned today. Mike, I don't know, did you take anything else away from this?
No, I mean, nothing that we haven't harped on already, just that, it is such a crapshoot. I don't think.
No, we're saying
at the very least, I don't
shoot.
think most of these teams, I hope, would not like redraft the way they did. I know it's kind of something obvious, but there were still top 10 players in the top 10. I'll say, it wasn't like LeCavalier wasn't a total bag of diarrhea. Legwand wasn't a total bag of diarrhea. Stewart as well. So I mean that there's some ability to scout. It is a crapshoot, but that's like saying Lafreniere is probably, there's a pretty good chance he's going to be pretty good. You know what I mean? So I guess these teams aren't as inept as we jokingly said. Maybe some of them are. I'm looking at you Islanders, but I mean even the Red Wings too, Matt. Because again we said they only got 2 out of 11. But they did arguably get the best players. So, I mean, are you going to be upset that 9 of those guys never played in the NHL, or are you going to be super pumped that they drafted the best player? And it wasn't a top 10 pick. It wasn't even a top 5 pick. It was barely a top 200 pick. I don't know. So I guess just don't be too crushed come draft night. Because I know, last year we all kind of like, what? Who's Mo Seider? And now it looks like the guy's going to be, somebody who's going to stick around for a while. He looks pretty good in the minors. And
I can tell what you're doing there. Like we want to say like, no, it looks like he's going to be the next Nick Lidstrom. And then we're like, well, yeah, he hasn't played a pro game yet.
He's played 0 though so far.
Right. It's always just hope. Like there's nothing else to write in like newspapers nowadays. And what are the Griffins going to do is come around and tell us like, no, he's dog shit. So it's just, we won't know until we know. And I think that's a good thing to take away from this too.
Yeah.
Which takes away from all the fun of like running a podcast or doing, any sort of analysis of pro hockey. Or I shouldn't say analysis. Analysis is what we should be doing, is doing the after and how can you improve. But instead, we all just, part of the fun is projecting things that we don't know. And, think about how many guys in that top 10 are names that we will forget as we move forward in life. And, that's another thing to take away from this, because that is a pattern that continues, is how many guys that are drafted in the first round just disappear and we don't hear from again. So that'll be another thing to take a peek at. But everybody, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Discussion 5, sponsored by Manscaped. Check us out. We are now, if you're listening to this through podcast, we do now post on IGTV and YouTube. And if you're listening to us on IGT and YouTube, we also are on every podcast platform out there. So if you don't have time to stare at the video, we've got plenty of ways to listen to audio. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Bye.